Okay, this is the third part or part C of today's Khudila campaign, Khudila television channel, being broadcast only on the internet, online, by essentially the movement defending the community in and from the East End of London, which has got as constituents of the active campaigns and projects ongoing. The latest action called End Hunger at Root could be called at End Poverty at Root, but essentially the idea is to stop hunger, destitution, and poverty by enabling people to use their own resources, the primary resources, to stay at home or stay in their own home territories. Now, that is a very simple, broad generalization because millions of people cannot stay in their homes or in their own territories. That is part of the problem. But most people can stay in their home territories, and that should be encouraged. In the context of ending poverty and hunger, that should be encouraged because, contrary to the shallow kind of assumption that migration is the solution, migration is not the solution at all. Migration is a part solution to part of the problem. Most of the people's problems of hunger and destitution and displacement are made worse by migration. So the complexity and the details we shall be examining as we move on with these programs. So this program, Khudila TV channel, is broadcast online on the internet from London in the UK. And as we have said before, UK is used within quotation marks or cited within quotation marks. And this is to do with the current and worsening disintegration of the idea of a United Kingdom. And that disintegration has been fronted by Boris Johnson and others of his ilk. And there are details of the factors being used and affecting and the implications of the disintegration and the narrative that Boris Johnson fronts. Again, as we move on, we shall be updating on the various aspects of this. In United Kingdom being deliberately, negligently, intentionally, callously disintegrated by the cabal fronted by Boris Johnson. And this process is being, in effect, aided and abetted by the so-called Labour Party, which has got absolutely no credibility whatsoever when it comes to defending the values that are supposed to be for the good of all the people of the United Kingdom. And despite the fact that Gordon Brown, a notorious racist, keeps popping up from time to time, calling out the SNP and condemning them, and making kind of half-hearted and completely corrupt kind of spin and spiels for the United Kingdom. There is no movement to keep the United Kingdom as based on the universality of the values and the ethics and morality and the respect for each other. And the weakening of the UK is directly the fault to be kind of put at the door, if you like, of the Little Englanders who believe that Little England is bigger than the rest of the world. That is the mentality. And this Kudilar campaign, Kudilar TV channel, is intending to educate people, enlighten people, and make people aware with facts and evidence. And we assert that there is no similar outlet anywhere. And we are doing our best to fill the gap in knowledge, in enlightenment, and also in ethics and morality and democracy and equality. And as current undertaking goes, in opposing racism at every level and every stage. I hereby announce also the fact that from today onwards, we shall be broadcasting at 1 or 5 minutes length, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3, 4, 5 minutes length, a rebuttal slot. And it will be kind of theme. It will be on the theme of denial of racism that has been reportedly kind of staged by Williams. And it is not, as we speak, it is not available anywhere else. The rebuttal to Williams will be launched today. And every day, there will be 1 minute or 5 minutes, up to 5 minutes, evidential, factual, topical rebuttal and rejection of anyone who denies racism at any stage. And this is let's see the Sun, the Murdoch scum, what it is saying about that particular denial by Wills. And we shall be doing that. We shall, whenever we find this, we shall put that before the camera and we shall address that denial. And there is a very interesting, absolutely interesting piece in The Guardian on page 10. Not necessarily the content, but the subject, the topic, the headline is fabulous. It says, Society of Editors chief quits amid furore over claims UK press not racist. And it is absolutely fantastic topic. Whether the copy will justify that is another matter, but that is the topic. And Piers Moron, who may not get the kind of platform that he thinks he will be given by Andrew Brilopad Neil, absolutely. And there is this other headline as well. Amazing topic that is, which we have already said this. We have said more than this, but this is absolutely brilliant to see that we have been vindicated. It said that Brenda, that's a queen, but we say Brenda, had chance to condemn racism but missed it, say British equality campaigners. Well, it's not equality campaigners. The Guardian is being racist by relegating it to equality. It's not equality. It's anti-racist and human rights campaigners. That's what the Guardian should say there. Okay, so the main issue here is that in the papers or in the news line, Wills has said that the royal family is definitely not racist. Again, second example of them missing the opportunity to condemn racism. He is defensive. So we shall be elaborating on that by speaking directly to that alleged defensive statement by Wills, either for 1 minute or up to 5 minutes. Later in a separate recording, we shall do that. And we shall thereby start the daily rebuttals to racists and racism and racist defenders. And I think the Guardian is diluting this John Crace because he's being edited as if he's praising Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer doesn't deserve to be praised, not for a long while yet. And all these stooges are now in line and lined up, backing Brenda and the Buckingham Palace racists with any excuse and pretext they can find. And the piece on the I newspaper, where Jenny Bond is saying, dismissing the allegations by Harry and Meghan, is another of the shameless stooges. This is disgraceful. The whole of Fleet Street is completely corrupt, inaccurate, and racist, and they're also at the same time denying that the royal family is racist. I mean, how stupid can they be? And the Boris Graf on the front page is admitting that Meghan had warned ITV about Morgan's rant in advance. The Duchess of Sussex contacted ITV personally to warn that Piers Morgan's dismissive attitude towards her Oprah Winfrey interview could be damaging to others with mental health problems. Morgan told viewers on Good Morning Britain that he didn't believe a word of what she told Winfrey, including her claim that she was not supported by Buckingham Palace when she had suicidal thoughts. The Duchess feared his broadside may influence the opinion of others on mental health. As I say, this cartoon, the Matt cartoon, is absolutely spot on. The caption, that is. The caption says, Piers Morgan said, it had been a fantastic 6 years. ITV said, some recollections may vary. Now that is true of Morgan and ITV. Then the retort that Brenda kind of placed against Meghan. And it is absolutely the correct view that Fraser Nelson has said, that Piers Morgan is auditioning for his next gig, whatever that is. Well, I don't believe that Piers Morgan will be allowed to overshadow Andrew Neil. That is the point of the whole thing. Because Andrew Neil, Brilopad, has such a disturbed kind of ego that he won't allow another disturbed ego to come and collide with him. Okay, here is the continuation of the diagnosis of Tower Hamlets Council and the diagnosis of the particular outlets that have actually commented on the ruling by the Supreme Court. I mean, it was a rubber stamp ruling, rubber stamping the racist kind of decision that was rubber stamped by an Asian man and has been repeatedly rubber stamped by another Asian woman, Sajid Javid, followed by Priti Patel. The reason why it was a rubber stamp and why all the comments, including the so-called Times newspaper law report on the Supreme Court's rubber stamping, remember what I'm saying. Every single item that has been published in the mainstream, in the Fleet Street and on BBC and Sky News or whatever, about the rubber stamping ruling against Shamima Begum is wrong. And here is the list of the wrongs. First of all, they don't acknowledge and they don't even mention, and we are causing them to begin to mention this. We are doing it by this campaign. That Shamima Begum and her two friends were let down and allowed to be misled, if they were misled, by the Tower Hamlets Council, failing its safeguarding children duties. That's the media that are commenting, or the so-called Human Rights Watch and other so-called experts who have published online various comments about their expertise on the Supreme Court rubber stamping against Shamima Begum, dated the 26th of February 2021. They have failed to mention the Council's duties, and they failed to mention the existence of any duty by the state to protect children in the context of this whole kind of list of things that Shamima Begum and the other children have been kind of involved in. And it doesn't say anything about the schools. What was the school doing? It doesn't say anything about the police. What were the police doing? It doesn't say anything about the other parts of the state. What were they doing with anything, including the Prevent scam or Prevent scheme? And what on earth did they think that the Muslim community in Tower Hamlets or similar areas was prima facie, presumably, to be treated as a suspect community, because they have not shared fully or at all with the wider community what kind of tendencies or trends might be at work over the years prior to these children being found to have left the UK without being protected, guided, supported, backed, educated, informed, enlightened, ethically, morally, in any way, factually. And why did the Home Secretary or the British state suggest that Shamima Begum should be kind of sent to Bangladesh? Doesn't that show brazen racism and brazenly racist predisposition to kind of tendencies that suggest that because Shamima Begum's parents came from Bangladesh, that she was a Bangladeshi before she was a British-born British citizen. None of these issues, none of these questions has been raised by anyone else. And I'm saying this, and we are saying this, that these questions need and warrant answering. And who, whether singular or plural, whether one agency or more, whatever kind of ethnicity they are or they have been, who was or were responsible for any policy decision that was made to keep what knowledge they had, these state agencies had, about Shamima Begum and the two other girls. That they knew at least the likelihood of these children doing something like what they have done, that is, leave the country and go to Syria. That these state agencies knew that, but they decided not to share that with anyone, including the parents of the children. How was that a good kind of policy or good act? So we go back to Tower Hamlets Council as a failing council. And we say that there is no kind of individual at any level, there has been no individual at any level, anywhere in the decision-making kind of chain in Tower Hamlets Council that has actually been identified or identifiable for the protection of children like Shamima Begum with the safeguarding duties that the council has been under. Whenever the actual wording was changed to make it safeguarding children duties is immaterial, because the general overall duty to safeguard the children existed even prior to the specific express kind of designation of the duty of safeguarding children duty came into legal force, if you like. Generally, the council, as the local council, is under obligation to protect the safety of the local area and the community, and that includes any number of things, whatever is relevant, whatever is actually likely to happen. They have to deal with that. And if they can't deal with that because of any genuinely found lack of adequate resources or necessary resources, then they have every option. They have had every option to call for support and assistance, including availability of necessary amount of resources and personnel. Why did Tower Hamlets Council not do any of the things that they could have done by seeking support and inviting the wider community to support them, because the council suspected or had enough evidence available to it that children might be being misled and the community needed to support the council? Did they do that? Did they take any such step, asking for support and help from the community? There is no record that exists to the effect that Tower Hamlets Council even considered that these girls were, or any children were in any way at risk of being exposed to misleading or diversionary adventurous activities. The fact that these girls have now been condemned as terrorists or terrorist brides or something like that makes the Tower Hamlets Council's responsibilities that many times more serious. And the demand for Tower Hamlets Council to be seen to be taking that responsibility seriously at this stage, the need is increasing by the second. As I said, the latest kind of online pieces that have been accessible to our campaign about Shamima Begum, tagged onto the, or pegged onto the rubber stamping by the Supreme Court on the 26th of February. These are stupid, ignorant, misleading, shallow pieces of expertise. So we are saying that again and again, the focus kind of stays firmly fixed by the facts on a corrupt council that cannot be relied on even to carry out the mundane aspects of the duties that it has to carry out to the local community on every aspect of the duties for which the council is given funding. And the fact that The Guardian reported yesterday that councils are seriously underfunded and the funding crisis is going to affect the delivery of services. 95% of the councils, English councils, expect to cut spending next year. This is the one that we have been repeatedly looking at, because this is a serious claim on behalf of the councils, and there is no admission by The Guardian in there that the councils are failing in their safeguarding duties, as we have been examining in relation to Tower Hamlets Council's failure to safeguard the children, Shamima Begum and the others that she was with. And another thing that has actually been highlighted by the rubber stamping ruling against Shamima Begum by the Supreme Court is that there is no law, there is no kind of evidence that the court itself, the highest court in the country, is even behaving legally and lawfully and in accordance with the various kind of obligations that the UK, as a signatory state to the various conventions and agreements and charters, is obliged to obey and carry out and implement. Remember the debate, so-called, it was a false debate and it was a completely ignorant debate fronted by the Daily Mail and echoed by some other Brexiteers and ignorantly mouthed several times by Theresa May before she was replaced by Boris Johnson. That they said that the main kind of focus of Brexit, should be on the Human Rights Act. Because they said that the Human Rights Act was preventing the UK from all kinds of things that if the UK came out of the EU, the UK would be able to do with fantastic benefits for the people of the UK. Now that is what they said. That is a brazen lie, and it's an ignorant lie, because the UK Human Rights Act has not stopped the UK from doing any of the anti-human rights things that it has been doing, and it has been prone to doing, it has been predisposed to doing. Number one. Number two, the Human Rights Act has provisions for what is called derogation. Derogation from the international human rights legislation and framework. If the domestic country decides that a particular derogation, particular departure from an obligation, particular obligation is absolutely unavoidable and necessary to keep domestic security, an emergency, whatever, from being damaged. Now, there is no evidence whatsoever that the Human Rights Act has actually enabled anyone to do anything against the domestic security. In fact, the fact that there has been such a persistently sick kind of routine of the Human Rights Act being targeted for blame by the likes of even Theresa May shows that the courts, like the Supreme Court, would not even dare, or the judges, who are essentially Little Englanders, would not even dare kind of invoke the Human Rights Act to help anyone. And this is the point. Did Shamima Begum deserve additional protection in addition to the safeguarding children protection that she deserved and was denied? Did she deserve protection by the local council and by the state, by the school, by the home office, everyone, under the human rights provision, the human rights legislation? This question needs to be answered in full. And we are putting this to the Tower Hamlets Council to answer this question. And we are additionally including all the councillors in Tower Hamlets and all the councillors from the Bangladeshi background in Tower Hamlets to answer this question. What have they been doing? Time and again, this question comes back. What on earth have these Bangladeshi origin or Bangladeshi heritage counselors or travelers council been doing? Being counselors, or put it crudely, being pocketers of the money under the excuse and pretext that they are counselors. If you look at the kind of social media appearance by these counselors, most of them behave with embarrassing kind of evidence of stupidity. For example, these counselors take selfies. I mean, when they can do that, I'm saying that because of the modifications imposed by lockdown. They are taking selfies with one another, or as has been the case with so many, or with Jeremy Corbyn standing near them, or them standing near Jeremy Corbyn, or as has been kind of replaced by Keir Starmer and them. This is stupid parasite behavior. This is not the behavior of elected democratic representatives of the people, and there is nothing in the contents of their posts that even relates to the planet. It's a completely fantasy world, and it is completely in denial of the life of ordinary people in the community, in the wards and in the borough, and there is nothing of reality in there. So when we say that Terminus Council owes big time for his betrayal of Shamima Begum and the other two girls, we mean it on the evidence that every single way you look, Terminus Council as an entity, Terminus Council's employees as individuals making the decisions to neglect Shamima Begum or to completely stay in denial of the existence of Shamima Begum and everything about her. These people should be prosecuted under various laws and under common law as well, and also both under the tort and criminal kind of law provisions. When Diana was getting married in the St. Paul's Cathedral, or the ceremony was being held at the St. Paul's Cathedral in 1981, I think, I was attempting to watch the proceedings on an ordinary television set. And I was doing that with as much concentration I could bring as possible. But that was not to be. The whole thing was interrupted by a most unwelcome and obstructive and annoying appearance of somebody who had not made any communication to me that they would appear at any date, or could they appear and kind of stay some hours with me. It so irritated me that I spent the whole proceeding, the whole recording of the broadcast of the wedding, having a very angry kind of time, shouting and kind of generally being very annoyed. That was the day when Diana was married at the St. Paul's Cathedral. But the reason I'm putting this incident on the record is to show the impact of impact. That is to say, if you do certain things that involves your connecting with some other people, communicating or arriving at their space without any notice, then you create consequences that you cannot measure and you can never kind of pay back on. Now, the damage that particular individual caused to me was not just on that occasion, but on occasions that I cannot kind of count in numbers because I didn't write them down or I didn't record the numbers of times that they appeared like that. Now, this is an introduction to a very serious damage that the same individual has done by appearing again and then kind of pretending to be fully respectful of my integrity, and days later brazenly lying to me on the telephone repeatedly and then causing serious damage by their lying because they misled me into entering the wrong numbers on a digital arrangement or kind of program. And when I found out that they lied, I confronted them by communication, saying that they had lied, they denied. And they said something so stupid that I shall devote a whole episode of the Kudila TV channel broadcast to describing what they did. Now, this is an individual who first met me in the 1970s by offering themselves as an anti-racist campaigner and a supporter of the anti-racist campaign that I was actually one of the leaders of in the 1970s. And so what this individual has said, instead of admitting the lying and apologizing, he has accused me for his lying. Amazing. So this is what I'll say to Diana's eldest son, Williams, that I was and I have been the victim of a racist who abused my generosity. And he would not dare say the things that he said about my integrity because I had actually caught him lying. And he only dared to say those things because he thinks that he, being a white one, has a higher kind of privileged position to make any kind of aspersions to my integrity, even though the wrongdoing was done by him. That is the racism that is happening in this country to thousands of people every day. And anyone denying racism in their space anywhere is, of course, being racist. And Williams has shown that the royal family is not only racist, but ignorantly racist and defiantly racist, stupidly racist. Fact that they belong to that family doesn't make them any different than any other human being, because belonging to a family doesn't constitute any superior DNA or whatever. But that's what is being kind of suggested. I mean, Williams is behaving very kind of inappropriately and ignorantly, as has been Brenda, his grandmother. And the fact that he says that, or he accepts whoever wrote the script for him, that the royal family is definitely not a racist family, shows that he doesn't understand even what he's saying. If he's understood what he's saying, or what he was saying, he would have said the royal family is determined to oppose racism and end racism wherever it finds. That is what he should be saying. But he has repeated what Brenda has said, that recollections may vary. And as one of Meghan's closest friends has already said, recollections never vary. And the racist kind of assumption by this person who destroyed so much of my time need to be put to absolutely proper contextual use. for the sake of the justice campaign for the victims of racism everywhere. So, the behavior that we referred to in the previous part about Neom Council is going to be detailed in the next part, just in one kind of part. So we shall be ending this one at this stage and come back to discuss Neom Council